Hi, welcome. This is not a book review. This is my version of the Show Us Your DAWs challenge. Chris from Liminal Spaces and Jake from Pulp Mortem Saturday morning did this amazing live stream where they showed us their favourite DAW covers. They have hundreds of DAWs. I live in Australia. DAW is not common here. So in case you're wondering what DAW is an American science fiction publishing house and fantasy that was established by Donald A. Wollheim when he first left Ace Books in 1971. I think him and his wife, Elise Wollheim, ran it together for a while, and it claimed to be the first publishing company devoted purely to science fiction. Sorry about the bird noise. It's not going to stop. The DAWs are unique and people like them. They've got these noteworthy yellow spines, but not all of them. And it turns out that I've got both more DAWs than I thought and less DAWs than I thought. I thought I had about a dozen. I've got just under that, but I've got 3 that I didn't realise were DAWs because they didn't have that yellow spine. So these are off my to read shelf and these are off my red shelves, and I'm going to romp through them in terms of worst to best. That seems fair. So, first of all, from the non-yellow spine, even the DAW up in the corner doesn't have any yellow around it. We've got Night Sorceries by Tanith Lee. This is part of her Flat Earth books, and they're told as stories. So, the one I read recently, and from memory, they don't feel so much like short stories as a whole heap of interconnected stories. The cover art is by Michael Whelan, who did a lot of DAWs. But Tanith did something a little bit unusual there when she did this. The black and white internal artwork is actually by herself. So you've got Michael Whelan on the cover. You've got Tanith Lee's artwork inside, and I do plan to read this book pretty soon. In terms of the number within the DAWs, small bird trying to eat books, this is number 706, so fairly far along in the process. Next we have got Delirium's Mistress. Again, Tanith Lee, again, Michael Whelan, and once again, you've got that internal, what are they called? Front piece. Front piece? Oh wait, no, this one has no front piece. No internal artwork. And I'm not even sure if it's going to tell me what number DAW it is. Nope, it's not. Oh well. Nice book. We'll read eventually. Or possibly it'll be a reread. Not sure with my Tanith Lees. Okay, now here is the final non-yellow spine, but here you can see that the DAW is in a small panel up the top and it is in fact yellow. So you've still got that. Once again, I'm pretty sure this is a Michael Whelan cover, but I'll check that before I lie to you. Yes, it is not. It is cover art by Victoria Poyser. It's DAW Collector's book number 615. And it is quite beautiful artwork. I love that cover. If only the spine was yellow, it would be that perfect DAW experience. And this one too doesn't have a front piece by Tanith Lee. I thought they all did. There you go. I learned something today. Moving on from the Taniths with the non-yellow covers, we move on to a DAW that also doesn't have a yellow cover, but once upon a time it probably did. So this was yellow, but the yellow, as we all know, fades first. This is Brian M. Stableford's The Paradox of the Sets. And you've got the DAW yellow on the cover, which hasn't faded, but the spine has faded so badly that you can't even see Stableford's name along there. Here we have a first printing. A lot of the DAWs that I've got do seem to be first printings, which is interesting. And the cover art is by H.R. Van Dongen, who also did several others. Now, much like some of the covers that were being shown by Chris and Jake, you've got that fascinating combination of pastoral and futuristic. There is also a sort of upright element to this whole cover with the teepee mirrored by the spaceship and the hills behind. Very nice piece of art. Very nice. Do enjoy it. And though the book doesn't tell me one way or another, you have got that lovely little front piece as well. And I'm going to assume that's by Van Dongen as well. Or is it Van Dongen? No. It's just on. Yes, H.R. Van Dongen as well. Next, I have got a Marion Zimmer Bradley Darkover novel, Two to Conquer. The cover for that is beautiful fantasy science fiction. I really think the cover's gorgeous, except for that price sticker that was put over the actual door yellow box and has been there so long that it has lost all colour and detail. Very annoying. I am thinking that I might try and get that off using some of Jules Bert's amazing techniques once summer comes and everything's a bit warmer. Now, once again, we've got the faded spine. You can still see smidgens of yellow in this one on the right angle, and you can't see the author name. Bradley is sort of faded, which might not be a bad thing. I read many Marion Zimmer Bradleys when I was young, and I'm not virtue signaling here or anything, but there was always something about her attitude to things that never sat that well for me. I read them, it was Darkover, it was science fiction, it was fantasy, of course I read them. But I was always a little bit uneasy about them. I got rid of most of those books over the years. I can't pass them up because of what they mean to the science fiction fantasy genre. She was instrumental in Swords Against Tomorrow as well, I think. But I am deeply conflicted about MZB herself because she wasn't a good person and she was complicit in some very bad things. So there's pluses and minuses to there. I will reread Two to Conquer at some stage with mixed feelings, but there you go. This is a first printing as well. It's not going to tell me what number the book is it? Okay, on the cover it says 250 and the artwork is by John Pound. This gorgeous artwork. I especially love the fact that you've got that whole, the colour, the fade in, the whole structure, everything about that artwork is gorgeous. Love it. And finally, from my to read pile is the one that is in best condition. You've actually got a fully yellow spine. You can see the author's name, Dixon, in that red that is all unfaded and beautiful. And the cover is in nice condition. The whole thing is something that you wouldn't be embarrassed to buy off the internet if you did those sorts of things. In the little door box up the top, it gives the price of the novel at $1.75, which I just think is adorable. I got it secondhand for considerably more than that, I'm going to say. This is a number 175. It is Gordon R. Dixon's Necromancer, Dawn of the Dorsai Era. Now, I did read Dorsai fairly recently, and I will get around to this one. Dorsai is sort of mixed joy and laughing at it. So, yeah. Anyway, it is a first printing. The cover art is by Greg Thaxton, something like that. And it's very vivid and very colourful. He's obviously into the faces, and I like the purple smoke background. Probably not, would never be my favourite door cover art, but I do quite like it overall. Okay, so those are my to read pile that I will get to one day, I am quite sure. A couple of them, like I said, I've already read, but if I read them back in, I don't know, the 80s or the 90s, haven't seen them again for a long time, and I encounter them in the wild, buy them, they go onto my to read shelf on the assumption that I don't remember them well enough. Okay, so for my fairly recently read or multiple time reads, we're gonna start with that book, Michael Shear, Niftaleen. This cover was one of the favorite covers, and it is gorgeous. It is also in appallingly bad condition. It is white. You can't read the author. It is starting to fall apart. Foxing doesn't cover this. This is more like a whole kennel. and some nasty person coated the entire spine with contact, which is probably the only reason why it's together. Then they put a yellow sticker on it for some reason and contacted that all over. As I mentioned on the live stream, I did once own a really good condition copy of this, but it did leave with an X, and that's a bit sad. So Michael Shear, pluses and minuses to his writing. I adored Niftaleen the first time I read it. I was mesmerized, and I read it, I think, 3 times in the first 10 years. Then I didn't read it for a while, and last time I tried to go back to it, I had a little bit more trouble with it, but I wasn't probably entirely in the mood for fantasy. Okay, first printing 1982 by Michael Shear. Cover art and frontispiece. There you go, frontispiece. Frontispiece? Frontispiece. Why would you have an I after the T? Frontispiece. Whatever. They're both by Michael Whelan, who did spectacular art on a regular basis. Look at that. Surely there's someone out there who's got that as a tattoo. The world is science fiction is wasted if there isn't. Okay, so for my next, also in terrible condition, White Spine, Volkova by Tanith Lee. Once again, some kind soul has put a sticker over the door, but that one isn't coming off anytime soon because someone has contacted it. I've had Volkova a long time. It might even have been me that contacted it. Sorry, don't excommunicate me, because it's quite clear that this spine would no longer be connected to the rest of the book if something hadn't been done. Not sure it was me, but I do believe that I've had this book continuously for quite a long time. Once again, Michael Whelan did the cover and the frontispiece, and once again, it is a first piece printing. Gorgeous cover. Love everything about that cover, really. It's just simply gorgeous in terms of color, in terms of dynamics, in terms of action. You've got those 3 levels, a person standing front on, wearing a dress. How unusual for Daw. And for Tanith Lee. The magician with the 2 flaming hands, and then you've got another level behind him. Just gorgeous artwork. And the slave girl and her heart, says part 1. And again, you've got one of those beautiful pen and ink drawings. For my third, also in fairly appalling condition, is Dorsai by Gordon R. Dixon. This one actually is still yellow on the cover. You can even read the author, which is why I'm placing it in better condition than the Tanith Lee, even though its cover is holding on by a thread. Parts of its spine are not holding on at all, and it's just generally in fairly poor condition. This one has cover art by Paul Lehr. L-E-H-R. Lehr? Paul Lehr? I don't know. And I do quite like the cover art. It is actually quite relevant to Daw, to the book, which is common for the Daw artwork. It's probably not my favourite. I don't think that would be on any list of favourites of mine. And I'm going to assume that he also did the really nice pen and ink drawing inside, which has a lot more relevancy to the book and which I do enjoy. What number is it? It is 175, if I haven't said that already. I might have. Sorry. Now we're getting into good condition. So, fairly recently, I picked up The Halcyon Drift by Brian M. Stapleford. And this is in lovely condition. Even after I read it, it's still in lovely condition. The spine is red, intact, there's almost no creasing, and what creasing there is was not there before I read it, so hooray. You can actually read the author, huzzah. You've got this really, really unusual artwork. So when you first look at this artwork, you go, what on earth is happening there? It just seems too abstract. But as you read the book and you pick it up to read it again, you suddenly realize what the artwork is and how relevant it actually is to the story. It's got that beautiful blue background as well, which I like. So Halcyon Drift was a really good book, and there is a review of it somewhere back on my channel. It is the first in the Hooded Swan trilogy series, one of those things. And I'm a little bit regretful that I don't have any of the rest of it. But based on this, I read 2 more Staplefords, and I'm really quite impressed by him. He isn't one of the authors that I knew a lot of before. So yeah, I've been enjoying becoming acquainted with him. The cover art, this rather unique cover art, is by Jack Gauguin. Don't know if he's related to the one who went off to Tahiti and hung out with Van Gogh, but probably not. Bit not contemporary. And I'm going to assume that Gauguin also did this rather gorgeous black and white. Again, if no one has a tattoo of that, the world is lacking. So beautiful. Did I mention what number it was? No, I did not. This one was 95 cents, by the way, when it was new. I did not mention what number it is because I can't find that anywhere on the cut and the inside of the cover, the front of the cover, or the back of the cover. So who knows? Now, moving up to my first, I think this was probably the first DAW I ever owned. I have never let it out of my possession because I love it too much. Port Eternity by C.J. Cherryh. I think this was probably my first DAW and my first C.J. Cherryh, and I don't know if I got it new, but I've been preserving it carefully for all those years. I love this book. I loved it when I was young. I read it and reread it on a regular basis. It is, I always thought of it as a standalone. Apparently it belongs in a semi-series, so it's contemporary with a few other ones, but it works perfectly well as an independent book. You've got some fascinating background here because Port Eternity happens on a spaceship owned by a very wealthy woman who has all these androids called things like Elaine and Lancelot, and in their own strange ways they're reenacting the Arthurian legends. It's quite a bizarre, quite a beautiful and slightly depressing book. But here you've got that spaceship spacesuit with the traditional fishbowl cover, and you've also got a knight in extremely untraditional nor realistic armor, but very beautiful. And they're both the same person, and which I believe is the narrator. Anyway, I love this book. DAW Books Original, it says. It is number 250. I have been very, very carefully reading it for all these years. That artwork, which I just raved about so much, is by Ken W. Kelly. And that is the entire sum of all the DAW books that I own. And unless I go on a buying expedition to North America, it's probably all the DAW books I will ever own because they're so hard to find here. Thank you for watching. I don't really know how book tags work, but if you're watching this and you've got DAW books, consider yourself tagged, especially if you watched part of that wonderful live stream, which I enjoyed so much. So thank you for watching. Have a great day. Read good books, and especially DAW good books. Bye.